built the world's largest gaming PC, spending almost $10,000 on the most powerful PC parts that you can buy, building not just one computer but two in the same case. Creating a monster dual PC setup perfect for streaming, gaming in 8K, and so much more. But we're not going to stop there. We are going to custom watercool this entire computer, which is something I've never done before, so this could go horribly wrong. So the size of this case is absolutely massive. According to Google, this is the largest case that you can buy. And as we know, Google and Wikipedia is 100% factual information. Right here, I've got the Corsair 1000D, which isn't just a full tower, it isn't a mid tower, it's a super tower, which is a whole nother tier of case. The first stage was to prepare the area. I expected this project to take 4 days max, which was a little bit of an underestimation, and you'll see why at the end of the video.
This is gonna be ages.
Organization is the key to success, so I laid out all of my parts into categories and also used this time to check that everything had arrived that I had ordered, which was actually a very good thing to do as one of my 2 power supplies was missing. Once I double checked all of the components, it was time to actually start assembling the PC, and this all begins with preparing the case.
I need a break.
The problem is, I don't have time for a break. The longer my PC is out of action, the longer I won't be able to make any videos, and my YouTube channel could die. Considering that this channel gets almost 20 million views every single month, I don't want to let any of you down. Also, if you haven't already, subscribe because only 5% of you are. I don't think anybody likes me. Now, I actually made a mistake regarding the radiators. I bought 2 480mm rads with the intention to front mount one and top mount the other. However, it turns out that the top of this case only supports 140mm fans, not 120mm. So instead, I chose to front mount both of the radiators, which I actually think was a good thing because it looks very neat and tidy. I was also a little bit of an idiot when it came to mounting the fans and radiators. I struggled away for over an hour trying to screw them into this bracket on rails, to later discover that you can remove the bracket by just sliding it off the case and then sliding it back on. I could have saved myself so much time and fitted them on my desk.
So I've ran into a few problems with my initial plan for the loop. So originally I was going to have one reservoir here and a second one here for the second system because we're running a 2-loop setup here. But the problem is I can't mount one anywhere in this region of the PC because of these stupid pass-through holes for all your cables. So I'd have to get like a special metal bracket made up to sort of fill in these gaps, which I just don't have time to do. The second option is to mount it like horizontally up here, where I'll have to drill some custom holes in order to do it, but it could work.
Now we need to be really careful because of the pump. We can't mount it this way because we'll have to tilt the case on its side to fill it up, and it will mean all the pressure will be on this glass, the tempered glass front panel. So we're going to have to mount it this way if we decide to do this. Mounting the pump required accuracy, patience, and also a high level of skill, so I called my dad. Thankfully, a template was included with the reservoir, which made drilling much easier. Then using this tap and die set, we added threads into the case so that the screws would go in easier and also create a better fit, allowing the res to be mounted tighter to the case, hopefully helping reduce pump vibrations and unnecessary noise when it's in operation. While contemplating my plan for the new loop layout, I made a start on one of the PCs. This is the secondary system that will be used for live streaming and also screen recordings. Having this PC will be a massive game changer to my workflow when creating videos, as I intend to have a 4-way capture card connected with all my cameras, consoles hooked up, so in a matter of seconds, I can record something for a video or even go live on this channel or the new gaming channel. If you've not seen that channel already, it's definitely worth a watch and a subscribe. This PC is an ITX system, so it's really small, and for this reason, we will not have space for a graphics card, so it's very important to choose a CPU that has great performance and a decent onboard graphics system to handle the live stream. I chose the Intel i7 3700K with a monstrous 16 cores, 24 threads, a 5.3 GHz turbo clock, and also support for the brand new DDR5 RAM sticks. I seriously cannot see us having any problems with this PC at all.
A few moments later.
So there's a bit of a problem with the motherboard I've picked for this bottom system. It can't fully align with the Corsair case, and that's because there's like a little encasement on the motherboard itself that means it can't sit flush right at the end, which then means all of the holes don't currently align. Now, as crazy as this sounds, I think we might be able to take this off. So as you can see, the cover's got 2 screws here, and there's also a screw on the bottom of the motherboard. I'm wondering if we take those out, this will just literally slot off, and then it'll be able to sit in the case okay.
Man, I'm so happy that that worked. I thought I was going to have to buy another motherboard. Right, so the next stage is to take my old gaming PC apart because we're going to reuse the motherboard and the CPU. It's got 5900X inside of it. Pretty decent CPU, no need to really upgrade that. And also 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. So I also want to use all of that in the new system for the main PC that's going to have the 4090. The only thing we're not going to basically transfer over is the water cooler and the 3080 Ti that I have here. Perfectly fine GPU, but obviously we want the best of the best for the new setup. Now I am going to have a few problems with taking this PC apart. I'm not really looking forward to it because I'm not going to have a main system for actually editing things on the main channel at the moment. So I'm going to be sort of stumped a little bit. Like there's footage on here that I need to access, so we need to be super quick. Otherwise we're going to end up missing a load of uploads and things on the main channel, which I don't want to do.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of a problem here. The CPU came out of the socket even though it was wedged down because the thermal paste is sort of like literally glued it to the heatsink, so I hope it hasn't damaged anything.
Thankfully, everything was fine. So the specs of this older computer are still fantastic. The CPU is a Ryzen 9 5900X with 12 cores that has actually been overclocked. The motherboard is also an Asus ROG board with lots of great features and also matches the style of motherboard in our new system. So there's not really any need for change here. These things should still be good for a few more years and getting the most out of this hardware at a top level. Before adding these components into the shiny new case, I did take the time to clean them up as my old PC was mostly on the floor for the last 1.5 years, which I don't recommend, and some of you have commented on quite a lot in a few past videos. Man, these things were super dusty, and that's because of this massive warehouse producing loads of dust going directly into the studios right there. Now I'm about to start the most insane project inside of here in summer, which is why I may have been asking you a lot about supercars recently. So subscribe so you don't miss that, because I'm about to do something no YouTuber has ever done before. So I've decided to put a brand new NVMe SSD in this system, which is unnecessary cost. I could just format the one I already have, but I would like to have the original one in case I need to access anything off of it, because we're actually going to be switching over to Windows 11 on all of these PCs, and I'm just going to see how that works. I think it looks really cool, some of the productivity things you can do with it, and I think it's time to maybe try it out. Before starting on the water cooling, I wanted to get all of the components into the case so I could figure out how the tubing was going to work and its layout. This took a long time to think over. The premise of water cooling is pretty simple, but the way you then create the loop and get the tubes in the right direction in the right place takes up a lot of time and also brain power, especially when it's your first try. The 4090 is absolutely massive and much larger than I anticipated, and it's actually a good thing that we couldn't mount that second reservoir here because the GPU would have obtruded. It would have been straight in the way, so thankfully that worked out quite good. The way that you bend a tube is as follows. First, you need a heat gun. This is an official one by EK Water Blocks that conveniently stands up on a nice angle of operation. You don't want to set the heat gun too hot. It's best to go for sort of a medium heat that slowly heats up the tube ready for bending. In order to preserve the tube shape, this rubber cylinder needs to be inserted down the tube so that the inside doesn't melt and break down onto itself. During the heating process, you then want to gradually rotate the tube so that the heat isn't focused on one single area, and then once flexible, you can proceed to bend either freehand or with a bending tool to assist you. I had a great experience with this Corsair water cooling kit and I highly recommend it. It includes all of the relevant tools that you need as a first-time water cooler, such as a bending tool, a rubber insert, a handsaw, a table clamp, and also a sanding tool for the edges of the tube once you cut them. So once you've cut the piece of tube, you then use this little orange thing and just sort of throw it in there, and you can sort of sand it down so it's not super sharp for sitting with the fittings and the O-rings and stuff, so it actually seals correctly. So that's actually quite a useful piece if we need it. So it's getting pretty late now. I think it's about 8 p.m. so I'm gonna leave it there for today. I'm pretty proud of everything we got done, and hopefully tomorrow we'll get all the tubes in. Oh, come on. Shit. Failed again. Honestly, I've been doing this all day since like 10 a.m. It's now like 3 p.m. and I've not even got one tube in yet. So we've now successfully got 2 tubes into the PC, and I must admit, this is probably 1,000 times harder than I initially expected. Now, when I was practicing doing all of the tube bending, it was pretty simple. It wasn't that difficult. But trying to align 2 different points within the loop and getting them bang on when cutting them to size and not making an error, it's like the hardest thing in the world. Also, trying to get the perfect aesthetics of the tubes is a huge challenge. If you view it from the front, you can see that that looks absolutely beautiful. But from the side, this one up here is a little bit too long and doesn't look the best, so that's also consumed a lot of my time. So here it looks like I'm actually going to be able to save one of the pipes that we did earlier that was really close, but it was just a little bit too sort of
long to achieve what we wanted, because the biggest challenge that I'm facing with this bottom system is trying to clear the RAM. So we need to get this sort of bend absolutely perfect so it doesn't clash with the RAM, but also so it doesn't clash with our second capture card in the main system over here. This is quickly becoming a pretty advanced water cooling build, and I'm a beginner. So after loads of time wasted, I think I've accidentally made a mistake. So on all of the loops, I'd used this outlet for the drain pipe, and then obviously this is the inlet of the reservoir. Now what I've realized is when we've filled this one up, is all the water's now being pumped out to our drain port, but not being pumped through the loop. So I think our flow of the loop just isn't quite aligning. So we've got liquid being pushed back into the loop, liquid being pushed out of the loop, which is why we've got these massive air gaps that, you know, we get out and then they come back as soon as you turn the case over. So I think I'm going to have to drain this and refill it, but move this port to here and put this on the outlet instead of the inlet. I've got it the wrong way around, I believe. Back on the heat gun. Right, so I think we're good to go, and this is finally the moment that we're going to get it filled up. So hopefully this time it should pump. This should drain really quickly when we turn it on. Yes! Come on! So as you can now see, finally the pump system is working. We've got the liquid coming out straight through the CPU block, back into the top radiator, and then back into the reservoir. Now I'm just going to keep topping it up until it gets pretty full, and then we can put it back on its side. And it doesn't seem to have any airlocks now, which is brilliant. So there we have it, we've got 2 complete loops and I'm absolutely buzzing.
3 hours later.
So I've now run into another problem, this time trying to boot the PC up. So it's booting up, but it's not displaying anything through the graphics card. And that's because when I have the graphics card installed, for some reason it isn't fully in the PCIe slot. It's like sort of slightly out at the end, so I don't think it's actually registering into the system. It would appear that the plate on the top, the heat plate, doesn't appear to be square. When you actually look here, you see how it's on a slight angle, which is, I think, causing it to obtrude against the motherboard, which means it isn't sitting flush in the PCIe slot. Now, this isn't me being an idiot and not knowing how to fit a graphics card. I've tested it with my old 3080 Ti, no issues at all. System's booting up fine, it's displaying through this. This is connecting correctly into the motherboard. It's just the new graphics card for some reason. To not waste any more time, I skipped over the GPU for now and installed this tiny AMD one that I knew would 100% fit and also work without any problems. I then continued with the installation of Windows 11 on the main system. So I was working on the PC until like 2 a.m. in the morning. I got Windows 11 successfully installed. After having to tweak a few settings, it was saying the PC wasn't compatible with Windows 11, even though it's like the most powerful computer in the world. It transpired that basically one of the security settings wasn't turned on in the BIOS. Turned that on, I could finally install Windows 11 onto this beast of a computer, which is so bizarre. And then now, I've actually got the graphics card working. So it wasn't fitting in there yesterday. I removed a little part off the motherboard, which made it sit more flush. And also, I checked at the back that the clips were aligning. For some reason, the clips on the graphics card wasn't quite aligning with the 3 ports at the back of the PCIe slot parts on the case, which I don't know why. It was like something was slightly bent or misaligned. Really, really odd. Honestly, this has to be one of the most frustrating things in the world. So we've got the main PC working. I've now went to install Windows 11 on the secondary PC, and for some reason, it's refusing to detect the internet. We're plugged in via a cable, we've got the Wi-Fi adapters in, and it will not detect the internet. And without the internet connection, I can't click the next button to install the operating system, so what am I meant to do? Well, luckily I found a solution. Pressing the button combination Shift F10 will open open up the command prompt. Then inside of here, you can go ahead and write in some different scripts. However, luckily for me, the driver download window pop-up option automatically appeared in the bottom right corner, just like it would on a regular Windows desktop. And then by pressing yes, I could then download all the drivers just like normal, as Windows had detected them automatically, and we were good to go.
This has been one of the most frustrating experiences of my entire life. But we're almost at the finish line. We are so close.
The final thing for me to do was to place the side panels onto the PC and do some basic cable management. These doors are great. They provide easy access so you can perform maintenance on your PC, no requirement for any tools. So you don't need to unscrew anything in order to get the side panels off. They just magnetize, open and shut. It's an awesome design. In addition, the tempered glass side panels really showcase your hard work and the piece of art that you have created. But let's not forget about the front of the PC. With those overkill amount of fans, they look magnificent when the RGB is turned on. And on the topic of RGB, everything from the fans, the motherboard, the water cooling reservoirs, the GPU, CPU blocks, and even the RAM are all synced together using Aurora. To go with my new PC, I also have plans for a brand new desk setup that's going to be one of the greatest I have ever built, but we'll save that for another video. But the biggest question you may be asking is, how does it perform? Well, to go with the world's largest PC, I also bought the world's largest keyboard and downloaded some games to find out.
I'll be doing a full video where we test and push this computer to its limits with 8K gaming, and I'll put a link to it right here and in the pinned comments as soon as it's finished. But for now, if you want to see how my old computer performed for a bit of a comparison, you should check out this video next.